Chapter 13. A Deal Struck. John teleported back in time to his bedroom. He glanced at his clock. 1:30 p.m. Oh no, he muttered. It's way past lunch. Hopefully, his dad had more work than normal and was just behind schedule for the day. Something John realized was wishful thinking, since his dad kept a very rigid schedule. John quickly changed from his pirate costume back into normal shorts and a t-shirt. On his way down the stairs, his ankle started to ache, reminding him of his bad landing after jumping off Blackbeard's tower in his race to get to Blackbird's boat. He limped his way to the living room. "Hey, there you are," his dad said. "I've been calling you down here for hours." Yeah, definitely in trouble, John thought. Telling his dad he was back in time on a pirate ship would get the eye patch taken away for sure, leaving John with only one option. Lie. I had my headphones on. He couldn't even look at his dad while lying. He felt guilty with every word. "Headphones?" His dad shook his head. "When I knocked, you didn't answer. I almost opened the door to check on you. Look, John, I don't want to change the closed door policy. I think it's important you have your own space. At the same time, you have to respond when I call for you." "Dad, don't worry," John said. "I was just really into this pirate adventure and I wanted to get to the end." Technically, John thought, everything he said was kind of true. It was a pirate adventure, and he did want to get to the end by bringing his mom home. "Well, fine. I'm glad you're enjoying reading again," his dad said. "Just be mindful of the time and listen for me." "Oh, okay," John said. He wasn't sure how he was going to fulfill that promise. "Your lunch is in the refrigerator," his dad said. "Thanks," John replied. He limped his way to the kitchen. "What's wrong with your leg?" his dad asked. John paused, trying to think of some way to explain jumping off a fort wall. "I slipped on a book when I was getting out of bed. I think I turned my ankle funny." "Well, you know what that means, John? Time to clean your room." His dad wagged a little finger in front of him. "Remember, organization and cleanliness are two of the best lessons that you're going to learn at boarding school." John sighed. He had been so amazed with his pirate life, he completely forgot he was going to boarding school. John had worked up a considerable appetite from all of his exercise in the Caribbean. The sandwich waiting in the refrigerator disappeared in several ravenous bites and was washed down with a tall glass of milk. He took an apple with him into the backyard so he could eat and think about ways to help his mom get back from the past. Unfortunately, he couldn't get the thought of boarding school out of his mind, and by the time he finished the apple, he was starting to feel anxious about being sent away. To relax, he started shooting baskets at the hoop over the garage. "Hey, John, what you doing?" Alyssa asked from the other side of the waist-high fence. "Just playing some round ball," John said. "Yeah, I can see that. But John, you never practice." "I practice," he protested. "Then why is it I'm such a better shot than you?" she asked. "You're not." "Come on, give me the rock," she said. John passed the ball to Alyssa, who caught it and shot in a single smooth motion. The ball arched high in the air and swished the net without even grazing the rim. "See?" she said and put her hands on her hips. "Fine," John said. "You're the best. I get it." Alyssa sat on the fence, facing John, with her legs dangling. What's gotten into you lately? I mean, normally you're all mopey and stuff. She shrugged her shoulders and let her face slacken to a dour expression. But today, you're all grumble and grumble. She gritted her teeth and shook her head around like a dog with a chew toy. My dad's sending me away to boarding school, he said. Ew, Alyssa replied, scrunching her freckled cheeks. Yeah, I know. I'm not really excited for it either. It's too bad you couldn't just go to a good school like me, Alyssa said. I know. I was really excited to start at Roosevelt. John shook his head in disappointment. Instead of moving on to the middle school, John would have to be shipped off to a remote school that sounded more like prison. No, not a boring school like that. Alyssa swung around and jumped off the fence, skipped into the garage, and came out a moment later with a brochure in her hands. See, I'm going to this Elon Musk Academy of Science and Technology. What's that? John asked. Alyssa handed John the brochure. The front flap had a picture of 4 smiling kids in front of a brick building. He flipped it open. Pictures of robots, airplanes, computers, and more. The academy is going to give me a head start on college admissions, Alyssa said. College? But you're only going into middle school, John said. Look, me and Robbie have a plan. You and your robot? He asked. John, nobody's going to do a better job of planning my future than me and, well, Robbie the robot. Half of the academy graduates went on to enroll in major universities like California Institute of Technology, Stanford, MIT, schools like that. Alyssa grinned and pulled her pigtails straight out to the sides and began talking in a halting manner like an old-fashioned movie robot. Beep bop, beep bop, me and robot will succeed, beep bop, bop bop, and then she laughed. John didn't even know what to say. Before deciding to rescue his mom from the past, his life ambition had been to buy a pirate ship from a garage sale from a storyteller, or, witch. And before that, his ambition had always been to ride bikes. John couldn't even imagine what high school was going to be like, let alone going to college. Just don't let someone else plan your future for you, Alyssa said. Alyssa's words filled John with enough courage to stomp his way back inside. He barged into his dad's office, where he stood with his hands on the hips and announced, Dad, I don't want to go to boarding school. His dad looked up from his computer monitor, glanced at John through his glasses, and said, John, we already talked about this. Dad, I want to plan my future. John, boarding school will help you with that, his dad said. Dad, Mom would understand. And John tilted his head to the side, the way Mom always did. Dad pulled his glasses off, folded them, and set them on the desk. He rubbed the bridge of his nose and sighed. John, it's not that I don't understand. His dad stopped rubbing his nose and looked up. Without your mom's help, I'm just not good at giving you the structure you need to survive. To thrive, I mean. But there's something else I want to do, John said, bouncing from foot to foot. How had Alyssa described it? John suddenly realized he had forgotten how she brought up the subject. There's always something else to do, John. But it's really about doing the right thing, his dad said. John kept trying to think of a clever way to convince his dad that there were alternatives to boarding school, but interrupted his own thinking by impulsively shoving the brochure for the academy in front of his dad and yelling, Here! What's this? His dad took the brochure and put his glasses back on and flipped through the pages. It's a local academy, Dad. It's world class, John said. It could give me a head start on a great career. A career? What career? Great. Now he's laughing at me, John thought. I better come up with something good like a doctor or... John focused on one of the words on the brochure, and without thinking he blurted, an engineer. An engineer? His dad said. Oh no, what do engineers do? John wondered. He figured they built bridges, made cars, and he knew his neighbor made robots. John didn't really like any of those things. All John knew really was pirates. And that's when he blurted, "I love pirates." "Pirates?" his dad asked, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, think, John, think. How to bring pirates and engineering together." He glanced at the brochure in his dad's hands. "Cars, machines, boats, that's it." "Mostly I like pirates for their ships, Dad." "Pirate ships?" his dad asked. John thought of everything he knew about pirate ships, remembering one short voyage on the Dragon of Plunder, and he blurted out, "Did you know that some pirate ships have a shallow draft and can cross sandbars while others can't? And they had lots of sails to catch the wind, but that meant that the wind was always blowing from behind and not in your face when you were looking forward?" He watched his dad's reaction, and he saw he wasn't winning him over, so John switched topics and saying, all these things pirates knew about ships, they put into modern ships that were built by engineers." John was now completely out of his element on the subject of ships and didn't know what else to say, so he said, "I kind of want to know how all of it works." His dad said, flipping the brochure around and reading the back. Alyssa had made it seem so good, but she'd also been sinking jump shots from behind the fence. John decided to try his luck and say, "An academy just like this is going to give me an education that boarding school can't." Dad folded the brochure and set it on his desk with his glasses. "John, I'm impressed. I've never seen you so interested in education. I'd be remiss not to encourage you. If you can get accepted in this academy, you can go there. But that's a big if. However, because you're going to be on your own. I won't pull any strings to get you in, and if you're truly interested, you'll be the one that makes it happen." "Of course I'll do it, Dad. Does this mean I can stay at home?" "Well, we can make arrangements for you to stay somewhere locally when I travel." "Like with the neighbors?" John asked. "We'll find a good place for you to stay." "With my own room?" His dad laughed. "It'll be a good place. Don't worry about the details. Just make sure you get into the academy." John was overcome with excitement, and he skipped out of his dad's office, biting back an exuberant cheer. He was going to be able to stay at home. All he had to do was get into the academy. How hard could it be? John took the brochure for Elon Musk Academy to his room, and he flopped onto his bed. He read more about the engineering program, computer models, hands-on experience, and more. And on the back of the brochure, he saw the entrance requirements for the academy. The first bullet point said, "Good grades must exceed expectations." John was just a meets average student. His report card typically listed him as just meeting expectations in everything. The only subject that exceeded him was PE. And the only areas around running, climbing, and jumping, those were the best. Well, what else? John read on. The next item on the bullet was a research project that demonstrated significant interest and aptitude in a field of study. John didn't even know what that meant. He decided that must be like how Alyssa made robots. But what could he do? He was studying pirates. Boarding school was suddenly starting to look not entirely terrible. At least at boarding school, all he had to do was show up. Just follow the plan his dad laid out for him. John sat upright in his bed. But if he did that, how would he help his mom? At least at the academy, he'd be able to stay with someone locally and maybe even have a room so he could help his mom. Or he could just help her now and get her home, and that would solve everything at once. Waiting to go back to the Caribbean was going to be the longest 2 days of his life.